I loved science because it wasn't political and politics, right? And now we're getting rid of that. Everybody kind of gets in line. They start checking the box. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to self-sabotage. And nobody really thinks about the broader impacts of all of this stuff, or possibly what this is doing to students and our culture in general. I think on the university campus, there's essentially like 3 forbidden fruit right now. And I happen to unluckily pick 2 of them. DEI, climate, and gender are essentially these 3 things that are untouchable if you start to discuss these things. The goal of earth science is to make sure that the public has a well-rounded view of the state of the planet and how to face the challenges that we will face, environmentally in the future. And I started asking my students and polling my students, and I realized they had an exactly upside down view of the state of the climate. I would ask them, whether or not in the last 100 years have there been significantly more, about the same, or significantly less people that die from natural disasters on a yearly or decade basis. And the vast majority would say significantly more. But in fact, we've lowered fatalities from natural disasters something like 98% over the last 100 years. And so more and more of my students would talk to me and tell me about their feelings about climate. I was shocked that many of my students told me that although they were planning on having a family, they no longer wanted to do that. They would feel guilty by starting a family because they really were convinced that the planet was going to come into some, catastrophe in 8 or 10 or 12 years. And it wasn't worth it to try to raise a family. We were robbing these young people of their ambition, of their hope. Why would they sacrifice now and work for a brighter future if they didn't think they had a future? And I felt like as an earth scientist, that's like my community that isn't speaking up and is letting, false narratives get out there by things like the IPCC, the World Economic Forum, the UN, that are constantly telling us that Al Gore up there saying the oceans will boil. There's no chance that the oceans will boil. They've never boiled before. They'll never boil in the future. These are absolutely ridiculous claims by adults that know better, that take what they don't consider the words that they speak and the mental health effects that they're having on young people. And then we wonder why young people have no ambition and they don't really think about their future. And it's just all of these things are interconnected. I never blame the young people. Greta is out there. She probably really believes that she's helping to save the planet. I really believe that. I blame the adults that are experts in the field that either sit on, and zip their mouth because they don't want to rock the boat. And, you'll hear in the back channels, I know that's not really true what they're saying, but this brings us more funding. This brings us more, exposure. So let's just not say anything. I think that scientific integrity is more important than getting a little bit of extra dollars or trying to motivate people to change their behavior by giving them bad data. There's going to be bigger challenges in the future. And then people like me that are scientists, nobody's going to listen to us. We saw it with COVID. We're seeing it with climate. We keep making the same mistakes. Give the people all the information. Let them figure it out. Don't try to sway people into behavioral changes by claiming science is doing this, because you're omitting one part. You're only giving one side of the story, and then you're catastrophizing or over-exaggerating that side to try to make a point because they claim the ends justify the means. I disagree with that. I think scientific integrity is way more important than that. And to me, being in the community, I just those 2 reasons together, it made it a lot easier to walk away and probably commit career suicide. I doubt a university will pick me up. But, with my now being a father, I just saw it as more important. The career started to lose its appeal to me because of this stuff. These negative consequences that I was seeing started to really be, I noticed them much more. I started to see all the negative impacts. Young people should have hope for their future. There is going to be challenges. We're always going to face challenges, but they have a bright future, and they should be thinking about sacrifices they make now to ensure that future is brighter, instead of just kind of losing all ambition and hope, because that's the worst way to motivate someone to be a good steward of the environment, is if they're not hopeful for a future that has a good environment.